My name is Lisa, and I am 40 years old. I stay at home and look after the house. My husband Michael and I have been married for 10 years. It was hard for us to have children, and after 6 years of treatments to help us conceive, we finally succeeded. Now, we're thrilled to be expecting twins. I was so happy that I even cried when my doctor told me. When I shared the news about the twins with Michael, he was extremely happy. My parents were very pleased as well. However, my in-laws were quite shocked. My mother-in-law wondered aloud if the ability to have twins was a genetic trait in our family, especially since Michael's brother, Jack, also has twins. Jack and his wife had their twins right after they got married. Their twin boys are now 5 and are quite playful and cheeky. As my delivery date gets closer, I find it hard to manage with my growing belly, and being pregnant with twins is far from relaxing. Still, it feels great knowing the twins are doing well. Despite feeling proud that I keep the house in order even while pregnant, my husband isn't satisfied. He often complains about my cooking and the cleanliness of our home, even though I am not feeling well. He expects me to do better and doesn't help around the house at all. He gets angry easily and doesn't understand how tough it is to be pregnant with twins, saying I should not use it as an excuse. This attitude from him really stresses me out. I'm sorry, I've been feeling unwell since the morning. You should know it's not just about giving birth. The real work of being a mom starts afterward. Now, could you please handle lunch today? My mother-in-law, who lives just a 20-minute bike ride away, visits us every single day. She arrives around noon, criticizes me, demands that I prepare lunch for her, and continues to nag and be harsh until she leaves. It's incredibly stressful dealing with her every day. I've reached my limit with my mother-in-law's daily attacks, and I finally spoke to my husband about it. I mentioned that my due date is approaching, and I'm considering moving back to my parents' home for a while. He seemed puzzled and asked if I wasn't supposed to be hospitalized before my due date. I explained that I'm scheduled for a C-section, so I'll be admitted to the hospital shortly before then. He appeared surprised to hear how often his mother visits and stays for so long. He then suggested that maybe she acts this way because she feels comfortable with me, as if I were her own daughter, and he asked me to try to be more understanding towards her. I tried to explain that I could handle her presence before my pregnancy advanced, but now with my large belly, it's becoming unbearable. I asked him if he could see how difficult it is for me to move around and deal with his mother's constant criticisms and demands. I stressed that the ongoing stress could potentially affect our baby's health. He admitted he definitely didn't want that to happen. So I urged him to speak with his mother if he continues to overlook how this is affecting me. I stood up for myself. As I spoke, I got very emotional and said things I didn't plan to. My husband was shocked. "What are you saying? Are you thinking about divorce?" "Yes, if things don't change. I can't take this anymore," I replied. My husband looked concerned and sighed deeply. "Do you really mean it?" "Yes, I do. Can't you see how serious I am?" "It's hard to believe," he admitted. I felt that he cared more about his mother than me. Frustrated, I challenged him, "Then let's get ready for a divorce. Go ahead, prepare the papers if you think you can't trust me. Then you'll see if I'm serious." Seeing my determination, he got the message. Later, he actually got the divorce papers ready and talked to his mother about the situation. In the end, I didn't go back to my parents' house. After that conversation, my mother-in-law stopped bothering me until I went to the hospital. I had a C-section and safely gave birth to twins. After the birth, I stayed at my parents' place for a while, adjusting to being a new mom and looking after my twins. It was a tough time, especially with my slow recovery from the surgery at my age. 2 days my husband visited. "Can you come back home soon?" "It hasn't even been a month," I replied. "It's been a month already. Aren't you just enjoying yourself too much while leaving the housework?" "Enjoying? There's no time for fun. Being a mother to twins is hard, and I'm still recovering from giving birth, I explained. So, what if you're older? Many people don't go back to their parents after having a baby. Stop complaining and come home, he said insensitively before he left. He didn't even spend time with our children. He just left after that, leaving me to soothe our crying twins. I felt heartbroken and shed tears too. Despite not wanting to cause any further strain on our marriage, I decided to return home, even though my parents were reluctant to let me go. As soon as I walked through the door, my mother-in-law greeted me with critical words, standing there like a statue meant to guard the entrance. You finally came back. Do you even understand what it means to be a wife? She snapped the moment I stepped inside. I was too exhausted to reply, and I simply walked past her into the chaos that was once our tidy home. As I entered, the sight of our living space left me speechless. The kitchen counters were buried under dirty dishes, there was no space left for preparing a meal, and the floor was littered with clothes and trash from fast food. This was the mess I came home to after being away for just a month. Mother-in-law, were you here during my absence? I asked, trying to understand the situation. Yes, I was here the whole time. I was worried about how my son would manage on his own, she responded. So you were here all this time, and you still let the house turn into this disaster. I countered, unable to hide my frustration. You say you were worried about your son, but how could you think this environment is acceptable? It's unsanitary, especially for my babies. It baffled me that she had raised children of her own, yet seemed unconcerned about maintaining basic hygiene in the house. Determined to restore some order, I first settled my twins into their crib in the bedroom. Then I began the daunting task of cleaning up the mess. It was a slow and tiring process, and by the time I finished, the sun was beginning to set. Just as I was putting the last few things away, my mother-in-law remarked from her chair, where she leisurely sipped her tea, "You're finally done. You're so slow." I clenched my jaw to hold back a sharp retort, my patience nearly spent. As I stood there, feeding my babies and trying to catch my breath, she set down her teacup with a clink and casually mentioned, "Oh, by the way, starting this weekend, Jack's twins will be coming over. You don't mind looking after them, do you?" Her question stunned me, and I took a long moment to process her words. "I'm sorry, what did you just say?" I asked, needing her to repeat herself to be sure I had heard correctly. "I've decided that Jack's twins will stay with us on the weekends from now on," my mother-in-law announced. "What do you mean by that?" I asked, confused. "We're doing this to give Jack and his wife a break. You're managing fine with your twins who just sleep all day, so you should be able to help them out, right?" I was speechless. I'm not having an easy time at all. In fact, I'm so busy I barely get any sleep, I responded, trying to make her understand. With everything already chaotic at home, this was going to make things even harder. What on earth are you saying? I wondered to myself. What's so hard about staying at home and taking care of kids? I'm giving you a job to do. Be grateful and accept it, she said dismissively. I can't, I replied firmly. You just can't because you're not good at managing the housework. Don't use your inability as an excuse. It's been decided, she stated, and then she left. Just like my husband, she said her piece and didn't listen to my side of the story. But now wasn't the time to dwell on how similar my husband was to his mother. Panicked, I called my husband, who was still at work. "What's up? I'm busy right now," he answered. "Listen, your mom just said the most outrageous thing. She wants us to look after Jack's twins on the weekends." "Oh, that. You knew about this." I couldn't believe my husband was aware and hadn't objected. "Why didn't you say no?" "Well, Jack's family is having a tough time. They can't even go out to eat because the twins are so rowdy, and they don't get any rest or time to themselves. Don't you feel bad for them?" "Yes, that must be rough, but why does that mean we have to take care of them? Your mom and dad can help instead." "Mom and dad are too old for that. You want to put all that burden on them. You're so cold-hearted, he said. What about me? I'm already overwhelmed with taking care of our own twins, I protested. Babies are easy. They just eat, sleep, and then sleep some more. It's not that hard, and don't slack off on the housework, he added, without understanding my struggle. I won't accept any excuses. Keep that in mind. If you refuse, we're getting a divorce, he warned. What? Aren't you going to help me? No way. Do you expect your hard-working husband to do more work even on his days off? You're impossible, he complained. It felt useless talking to them. Both my husband and my mother-in-law just wouldn't listen. It was like talking to a wall. I ended the call quietly, still surprisingly calm. I decided to call someone else for support. A few minutes later, after finishing that call, I found myself watching my sleeping twins. Their sweet faces gave me strength. My husband and mother-in-law were only concerned about their own needs, not about our adorable twins or me. Whether they were around or not, my workload was the same. So I decided it was time to cut ties with both my husband and mother-in-law. That night, my phone rang. It was my husband. Hello? I just got home. Why aren't you here? Where are you? I'm at my parents' house. Why? You know I came back from the hospital. You cleaned up the house, didn't you? It's clean now. So why are you still at your parents' house? Because I'm done with you, I said firmly, then I ended the call and turned off my phone. I thought he might call my parents' house, but he probably felt too awkward if they answered. Instead, the next morning, my husband showed up at my parents' place, and to my surprise, my mother-in-law was with him. Lisa, you're here, aren't you? What are you thinking? He blurted out. Seeing them together so early made me uneasy. Can you not start trouble this early in the morning? I replied with a frown. What the hell do you think you're doing? Hurry up and come back home. Yes, come back and take care of the house. What am I supposed to eat? My mother-in-law added. They both pressed on, full of energy and frustration. I felt like telling them to go eat some grass in the yard, but I knew it wasn't the right time to say something like that. Instead, I gave them a cold look and said firmly, my home is here now. I'm not going back to that house. Are you saying you're getting a divorce? They asked. Yes, I filed the divorce papers last night. You said I could turn them in whenever things didn't work out for me. You meant it as a show of determination, but I took you seriously, I explained. My husband seemed lost for words. Lisa, you're just not thinking straight because you just had a baby. Get another marriage certificate and come back. If you do what you're supposed to, I'll forgive you. Then my mother-in-law chimed in, trying to convince me, go back, take care of yourself, and help with your other son's twins on the weekends. Is that really what you want? I asked, making sure I understood her correctly. Of course, she replied. I refused. First of all, does Jack know I'm supposed to take care of his kids? She hesitated. Jack didn't know I was taking care of them, did he? Her face went pale instantly. In fact, I had called Jack after speaking with my husband the previous night. When I explained the situation, Jack was surprised. You're already looking after your own twins. I wouldn't dream of burdening you with ours too. Sure, our twins are a lot to handle, but we love spending time with them. If we left them with you on our days off, we'd miss out on playing with them, Jack had said. So it turned out my mother-in-law had decided on her own that Jack and his wife, who had simply mentioned that raising twins was tough, needed help. She decided to take in the twins herself and then tried to push that responsibility onto me. I could never understand her. The divorce is final. Can you please leave now? My husband said stubbornly. Enough already. Suddenly, I heard someone yell from behind. I turned around to see my dad standing there, looking upset. Dad, you've been really selfish, he said to my husband. Do you ever help around the house or take care of the twins? My husband struggled to find words in response to my dad's questions. I'm tired from work, he finally said. But I heard you take a lot of breaks and leave work on time. even when others work late. And yet, you come home late. Are you having an affair? No, I was just hanging out, my husband stammered. So you leave all the housework and childcare to my daughter, and then go out and enjoy yourself. You have it easy, don't you? My dad challenged him. In fact, my husband worked for the company my dad owned. It's a small business, but with a good number of employees. However, my husband was not really working. He just acted important because he was the CEO's son-in-law. This was confirmed when my dad did some checking at work. I had thought he was working hard late into the night, so this was a shock to me. I'm going to ask you to leave the company because of your behavior. There's no reason to keep someone who's not family anymore, now that you've divorced my daughter, my dad said sternly. What? No way, my husband exclaimed, turning pale. Get out. I'll send you a formal notice tomorrow. Make sure to clear out your office early in the morning, my dad continued. Suddenly, my now ex-husband did something unexpected. He tried to push past me to get into the house. Hey, what are you doing? I exclaimed. He then tried to shove my dad aside. Move. Give me my kids. If they're with you, she'll come back, he yelled irrationally. Don't be ridiculous, using your own children as leverage, my dad retorted. Shut up. It's because you won't come back. My ex-husband desperately tried to force his way into our home. I held onto him tightly to stop him from coming inside. My ex-mother-in-law was desperately trying to pull me away from him. My father quickly moved to block the front door from the inside. It was total chaos. If he took my children, I feared the worst. I screamed as loud as I could, "Stop!" Just then, I thought I heard a police siren approaching, followed by the sound of brakes screeching in front of our house. Officer, over here, my mom shouted. She had squeezed past my father and rushed outside. She quickly explained the situation to the police officer who had just arrived. What the hell? I'm her husband. I'm her family. Why can't I enter my mother-in-law's home? My ex-husband yelled. I'm this boy's mother. Why are the cops here? My ex-mother-in-law argued. All right. We'll hear your story at our office, the officer responded. My ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were arguing with the police, and eventually they were taken away. My mom, who had been watching everything from inside, had sensed something was wrong and called the police. Thank you, Mom, I said to her. I called because I felt something was wrong, but I didn't think they would try to take the twins. They're unbelievable, trying to change your feelings by taking the kids as hostages. They're awful, she said. After explaining everything to the officer, we exchanged tired smiles. Later on, my ex-husband and ex-mother-in-law were released, but they received a restraining order to keep them away from me. Through a lawyer, I managed to get a lump sum payment for alimony and child support. My ex-husband, who had been fired from my father's company and had lost all his money, ended up living a tough life in a rundown apartment, working part-time jobs. How do I know? Because he kept sending me texts, repeatedly complaining about his situation. I was wrong. I love you and the kids. Why was I so selfish? I've changed. Can't we start over? Or if you could just do the cleaning and laundry, I'll forgive you. I'll come back. I'll be waiting. And so on. Even though he said he was wrong, why does he end his texts with "I will forgive you"? It doesn't make sense. Of course, I ignored him and eventually blocked him. I later heard from Jack, my ex-brother-in-law, that my ex-mother-in-law had moved into my ex-husband's rundown apartment. Surprisingly, I learned that she had been asked for a divorce by my ex-father-in-law a while ago, which is why she used to come to our place so often. It turns out my ex-mother-in-law, who always criticized me, couldn't actually manage any housework herself. I heard that she and my ex are always arguing because neither of them can do basic chores. I'm sorry for the trouble my mother and brother have caused you. Jack apologized over the phone, sounding genuinely remorseful. It seems Jack got all the good qualities from my ex-father-in-law. Raising twins can be tough. Please don't hesitate to consult me or my wife, he added. His supportive words really made me happy. After hanging up the phone, I heard the twins crying. All right, I'm coming," I said. Watching my adorable twins grow, I feel nothing but happiness.